Good evening, and welcome back to the Pipe and Tobacco Talk podcast. It's episode 29. Tim, it's time for you to read the MBSDpipes.com Prop 69 warning.
Now, last week I did it with a lateral lisp, and I was thinking that I would do it in Portuguese this time.
No, fire away, Tim. We are anxious to hear you speak Portuguese, too. I'll have to check the YouTube stats, but I don't think we're getting many Portuguese listeners. But go ahead.
All right, I got to come clean. I don't know Portuguese. I'll just read it.
Fair enough.
All right. Warning. This podcast will expose the listener to offensive, insensitive, off-putting, and otherwise socially unacceptable content known to the state of California to cause cancer. To avoid injury, the sponsors of this podcast suggest you simply grow a pair.
In the immortal words of the philosopher Testicles, man up. It's going to be a bumpy ride. So before we get to our esteemed guest, Dr. Alan Harrelson from the Pipe Cottage and the Pipe Cottage Social Network, we'll do a little housekeeping here.
You got to frickin' believe it or not.
Oh, are you... Tim? Periodically, Tim leaves the podcast because of technology, because we're both old, and if it wasn't for Ben, neither one of us could do anything. So Tim will be back in a minute. So coming up, next week we have Mike Murphy from Pipe and Temper, and on next week's episode, we are doing the best autocorrect for the MBSDpipes.com giveaway. They have 3 winners in this one. You get a $100 credit, store credit. Second place gets a $50 store credit. Third place gets a $25 store credit. Send us your best autocorrect, or, Tim, what was the other part of it? The bathroom poetry?
I don't think it was bathroom poetry, but that could be. I think it was, wasn't it, it was either the shittiest piece of shit car you've ever owned, or, the Valentine that makes you end up sleeping on the couch.
Oh, all right. So best autocorrect, the Valentine cards that got you some couch time, or just the crappiest card you've ever received. All right, fair enough. Multiple ways to win. We'll post it on Instagram, Facebook. We'll put something up on YouTube. So send your submissions to that, and we'll have fun with Mike while he's on. Boy, howdy. Do we have a guest tonight? Dr. Harrelson, welcome to the show. And first off, Tim and I are both Catholics. Congratulations. Welcome to the faith. We are thrilled to have you join us.
Well, it's my pleasure, sir. My wife and I and our whole family, we were confirmed on November 12th of last year, and so we are happy to be in the One Holy Apostolic Church, and I am so honored to be on this podcast with y'all here this evening.
Excellent.
Glad to have you.
So there's so many things to talk about. But let's talk about, first off, the Pipe Cottage Social. That seems to have taken off. It has grown some legs. Tell us where you came up with the idea and what spawned Pipe Cottage Social Network.
Well, we started Pipe Cottage Social probably 7 or 8 months ago because I did not want to rely on any other social media platform for our message and for our content. I was growing weary of Instagram and YouTube. I don't know if those people will ever get mad enough with me to where they're going to remove my content. So I started it as a way to have, well, first of all, to have a voice for the Pipe Cottage. But it turned into something far different. It turned into a community in and of itself. We've got about 4,500 people on it now, and that's a lot. If you have over 4,000 people show up to your front door and want to talk to you about pipes, that's a great deal of people. That would be one of the biggest pipe shows in the world. And so it's really become its own thing. It's the only social media platform that I know of that is entirely about pipes and is pipe-centric. And pipe smokers are the people who are running it. And it's basically hands off now. We have a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds, and there have been friendships made through Pipe Cottage Social that never would have been made otherwise. We have many people who are on Pipe Cottage Social that do not use any other kind of social media. And so I'm proud of that. I'm glad that there's still people out there who despise social media and they use this app because they think that there's like-minded individuals involved with it. So we're happy about it. It's on Apple. It's an app available anywhere that you get apps. My wife is the genius behind all of this. She's the technological expert. I am not. I simply tell her what I want it to look like, what I want it to accomplish. She takes off with it. So that's Pipe Cottage Social.
Spectacular.
Yeah, cool. That was quite an undertaking when you first launched that.
Yes.
Guess a big hill to climb.
It was. We didn't know anything about how to create an app, but we learned how to do it. And actually, through Pipe Cottage Social, we've got other clients that have asked us to. When I say us, I mean my wife, because I don't know anything about it. Have asked her to create apps for different types of businesses, and I think that's going to be the future of social media. People are going to learn how to create their own apps and their own platforms, and we're not going to have to rely upon these large companies anymore. It's sort of my way of bringing local business to the internet world, if you know what I'm saying. We've got to get away from these large companies, these large social media platforms that are essentially policing and controlling what we can and cannot say. And of course, if I put a video up on YouTube that has the word tobacco in it, it cannot be monetized, and you run the risk of that video being brought down at some point. So I'm kind of careful about how I title videos when I put them up on YouTube. On Pipe Cottage Social, I don't have to worry about any of that because it's a local, small, we own the app. We have all the copyright, all the power to control what happens in it. Okay. And so I would encourage more businesses to do that. I mean, this is not simply something that's focused on the pipe smoking world. I have strong reservations about corporate America, these big companies that are basically destroying our economy. So
you mean like BlackRock?
Yeah. Well, this is just one way for us.
Go right to the devil, you know.
Well, you know what I'm saying. Now, I did not know that both of you gentlemen were Catholic. I did not know that. Tim, I saw you at the Muletown show last year, and actually that's about a year ago now because it's coming up again.
That's right.
I didn't know at the time that you were Catholic, but if somebody had told me a year ago when you and I met at Muletown that I would be confirmed in the Catholic Church in November, I would have thought that to be complete hogwash.
No kidding.
I was not anywhere prepared to be involved with the Catholic Church in March. It happened just like this. Of course, that's the way it happens in my life. I met my wife in November of 2015. We were engaged in April of 2016, married 2 months later. So when I see something that I want, buddy, it just don't take long. I run after it.
So how were you introduced, and how did this come about then, that it all happened so quickly?
Well,
because you were maybe from a Protestant background or something?
Oh, yes, sir, absolutely. I was raised in the Church of God, which is a Pentecostal denomination, primarily a Southern denomination. In the United States, the Church of God is primarily in the South. There's other places around the country where you have some churches involved with it. It's about 6 million strong worldwide. About 2 million of those are in the United States. And so that's the very much Protestant environment in which I was raised. But interestingly enough, when I started to learn about the teachings of the Catholic Church, it wasn't very far removed from what I was taught as a child. Because what I was taught coming up is that there's no such thing as once saved, always saved. Man, we're really getting into some deep theological questions.
Here we go. Right, here we go.
I never believed it once saved, always saved. We were never taught that as children. And so the Catholic Church doesn't teach that either. The Catholic Church teaches that you have faith and works, that ultimate salvation comes when you draw your last breath, and we are continually working that out through fear and trembling. And it's just, that's one of many examples. And what I learned is that the Catholic Church is not a rejection of the way I was raised in the theology that I had as a child coming up. It is a completion of it. It is a completion of that trajectory. And I was interviewing Jimmy Aiken the other day on my channel, and he's the premier apologist on CatholicAnswers.com. And he and I were talking about this after the video ended. Jimmy and I have had a lovely correspondence. He's been sort of an anchor for me during this process, because when I converted to the Catholic Church, my parents really did not like that. And to be completely frank, they still won't hardly talk to me, won't have much to do with us because of our Catholicism. But what I've tried to get my parents to understand and other people to understand is that the Catholic Church, if you believe that the Catholic Church is true and you do not accept it, that is an egregious sin. That is a very serious sin. But there are many people, particularly in the American South and other parts of the United States, and certainly other parts of the world, they don't know what Catholicism is about, and so they don't know what they're missing. But when I came to the realization of the true beauty, the fullness of Christ that we have in the Catholic Church, I couldn't turn it down. It's kind of like what Walker Percy said. I was reading Walker Percy's essays earlier today, and one of his essays in a book entitled Signpost in a Strange Land is entitled Why I'm a Catholic. And his simple answer to that question is, because there's nothing else. What else is there? When you realize that the Catholic Church is the one true apostolic holy church established by Christ, then you reach a very difficult moment where you either have to accept it because you believe it to be true, or you are willing to accept heresy. And so what I concluded is that Christianity is not simply Christ, then Martin Luther and John Calvin. There's 1,500 years of history involved there that we must pay strong attention to. And I think it's entirely wrong for Christians to think that all that is important after Christ begins with the Protestant Reformation. That is entirely wrong. And of course, your viewers may or may not know that I am a historian professionally. That's my profession, is history. And so when I look at the history behind all of this, which I was never taught as a child, when you're raised in the Protestant South, you very seldom learn much about Christian history from the early church fathers through the medieval period. It really begins with Martin Luther and moves forward into the current age. And so when I started to look at all this history, a light bulb came on in my head. Why have I not been taught about this before? And so I'm not going to prattle on and on and on about this. I mean, we need to talk pipes in the back, I'm sure. But I came to see Christ in the Eucharist, see Christ in the Mass in a way that cannot be explained. I mean, I wasn't raised Catholic, which begs the question, were you two gentlemen raised Catholic, or did y'all convert at some later point in life?
Cradle here.
No, my wife is Catholic, and she is the greatest recruiter of all time. It took her 20 years to finally, because I grew up Southern Baptist. My grandparents were from Kentucky, Southern Baptist. You know, I went to all the hellfire and brimstone sermons that I could possibly tolerate. And I started reading, and there was a book that I picked up. It's called The Four Witnesses. It's four early fathers of the church.
Right.
And you realize, you know, these were men that were trained by the disciples. And the story of Ignatius of Antioch so captivated. Here was a man that knew he was going to his death. He was being marched from Antioch, which is the Turkish Syria area, all the way back to Rome. And the entire time he's traveling, and it took 6 months for this journey, he's writing letters to the churches along the way, who all the churches offered to pay for him to get out of this. He said, no, I'm going to join Christ. And he wrote these fabulous letters that still exist today. There are copies of them in the Vatican, and the writings of them so moved me. It's like, oh, this is the real church. This is where I need to be. And Diane and I started going to Mass, and I went through RCIA and have been, I think it was 8 years ago now that I became a Catholic. So, and it's just the beauty of the church and the beauty of the prayer life of the Catholic Church is second to none. You know, I start every day with the Liturgy of the Hours, and my spiritual journey started then. You know, when you get to a certain age, you've just seen too many things that can't be explained. You know, there's no reason why this person lived and this person died, and why this grew in some place that was so inhospitable you can't believe it grew. Hand of God.
Sounds like you have a proper theological and historical understanding of things, sir.
Well, I am not.
The only thing proper about Jim. Jeez, we found something.
I am not a professional historian, but I have been in love with history since I was a small child, and absolutely enamored. And you know, the Civil War specifically is an interesting period because the paternal side of my family fired on the maternal side of my family at Gettysburg. My great-grandfather's grandfather was in an artillery battalion, and my maternal great-grandmother's grandfather was General John Imboden, who helped cover the retreat from Gettysburg. And my maternal grandfather fired cannons at him while they left. So
that's a common story during that war. There was a common story for brother to fight against brother and family member to fight against family member. Jim, where are you from? So you mentioned Kentucky. Is that where your people are from?
The maternal side of my family is from Kentucky, and they moved to Indiana. And my father's side is Virginia and Pennsylvania, and they all moved to Indiana and met there. After World War II, the abundance of jobs in rural Kentucky were slim, and my dad's family were all steel workers, and when Inland Steel kind of took off in Gary, then my dad's family came there, and here I am.
There's one trip that I make every summer, and that's to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And I enjoy that battlefield. I enjoy that area. Although it's very Yankee, I like that part of Pennsylvania. It's beautiful country.
Beautiful valley, isn't it?
Yes, Lord. And I always go to J.M. Boswell's Chambersburg store, and I always try to make it to Alexandria, which is about an hour and 45-minute drive from Gettysburg. And so this past summer, I was at J.M. Boswell's place, and I actually bought this pipe here, which you can see. The people who listen to the podcast can't see it, but it's a church warden, and it was just, I smoked this pipe. I smoked probably 3 or 4 bowls out of this wonderful J.M. Boswell pipe the last time I was visiting there, and I love his house blends, and so it's always a treat for me to go to Pennsylvania. Actually, this coming July, I have an excuse to go to Pennsylvania because I'll be delivering a talk at the Chesterton Society annual meeting in Philadelphia. And so I will have an excuse to go to Pennsylvania in July, and I'm going to stay in Gettysburg, go see Mr. Boswell, and then go give this talk on G.K. Chesterton. It's going to be a pipe-smoking Civil War Catholicism type week, if you know what I mean.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tough to beat that. Tough to beat that.
Yeah. That I tell you, that park, there's something about the light in the summertime there in the evenings. It's whether it's the lay of the land, but you get to about dusk there, just as the sun's going down, especially if it's a sunny day. There's something about the softness of the light there. It's really kind of an enchanting place to be.
Oh, definitely. I mean, Shelby Foote is famous for quoting William Faulkner in the Ken Burns series that came out in the early 90s. And I can't do it like Shelby Foote did, but Foote quoted William Faulkner in Intruder in the Dust. Faulkner says that for every Southern boy, it's always within his power to go back to an early July day. The guns are laid, but the charge hadn't happened yet, meaning pickets on July 3rd.
Yeah.
And it's always in your mind as a young Southern boy that victory is still possible. It's still possible to imagine that moment before the Confederacy began to die a slow and miserable death after Pickett's charge on July 3rd, 1863. And so that's what good literature can do for you. If you have that literature in the back of your mind when you visit these wonderful places, it always comes to the front of your mind when you're actually there. And you're exactly right, Tim. When I'm at the angle, at the stone wall, looking across that field where, looking out across the field at the General Lee Monument, about a mile of range there, you watch the sun go down over the Lee Monument. And it's just absolutely phenomenal. And when you visit battlefields, you need to go at the time of year in which those battles were fought. That's the best way to really get a sort of a good feel of what the area would have looked like at the time that a battle occurred. But we could talk about the Civil War all night, and that's
I know. One more comment about this, and that's the guys that take you for the tours. If you ever spend any time talking to them about the kind of rigor that they have to put in to become a tour guide there, what they have to know, the amount of minutia that they have to become acquainted with, or actually memorize, not just become acquainted. All the markers and what happened when, and which divisions were coming in from which direction and what time of day certain events happened. It's just an amazing amount of information that these guys know. And every one of them, you can, put them behind the wheel of your car and you can ask them any question as you drive through that park and they'll be able to answer it. It's amazing.
I have never used a tour guide at Gettysburg. I have never done. The last time I listened to a tour guide at any Civil War location was at Fort Sumter out in Charleston. And of course, I'm a native South Carolinian. And we moved to Kentucky a couple of years ago, but I'm a native South Carolinian. And I remember years ago, my daddy and I was probably 16, 17 years old, we were taking a tour of Fort Sumter. We got on a boat and went out yonder. And the tour guide kept referring to the Yankee folks as we and us. Our soldiers were here. We were here. The Confederates bombarded us, and Daddy took great offense to it.
I'll bet.
And the time for the Q&A session came up, and Daddy's hand went like this right here, and Daddy said, excuse me, I just want you to know, this isn't really a question but a comment. I want you to know that when you refer to the Yankee folk as we and us, my folks was on the Confederate side of that bombardment. And so I don't think it's fair and proper for you to say that we and us includes everybody. And that's the last time that I have ever allowed a tour guide to be with me when I visit a Civil War site.
Did your dad refer to the conflict as the recent unpleasantness?
No. Daddy was raised in I call it the War of Northern Arrogance. That's what I call it. And but Daddy always called it the Civil War because he was raised in the 60s and 70s, and everybody who went to public school in the 60s and 70s, that's what you were taught to call it.
Yeah.
And Daddy was interested in Abraham Lincoln, and then I gave him a book by Thomas De Lorenzo entitled The Real Lincoln, which really introduced an argument probably 20 years ago, something like that historians had not taken into account, which was the economic reality of Lincoln's war, the economic situation that the United States was in. And so Daddy eventually came around to my way of thinking regarding Abraham Lincoln. And so thankfully, that's not an issue of debate between me and my parents these days. But Catholicism is. And but Jim, I wanted to ask you, you have this beautiful rack of tobacco tins behind you. How in the world did you make that? Did you buy that rack or did you make it yourself?
No, I made the rack. It's just 1x4s, spaced out to hold 16-ounce mason jars, and I've got another one that holds 8-ounce mason jars, and it seems to be not large enough. So I try to keep up with that as best as I can. In fact, if the weather ever breaks, I'm here in Colorado right now, and
good.
I don't recommend Colorado weather to anyone because it is bipolar. I took the dog for a walk yesterday morning. It was 26 degrees at 6 o'clock. By 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it was 64. Yeah, the 50-degree temperatures.
That's crazy.
So, and by the way,
craziness.
The book that opened my eyes to what Pickett's charge really was A Stillness at Appomattox. Bruce Catton's great, Mr. The Civil War trilogy, the Army of Northern Virginia, and the stones on those guys that made Pickett's charge. When you walk that field and you start to see, okay, now they're under artillery fire, and now they come to the first fence, and now they're under rifle fire and artillery fire, and they're in a straight line, and they're walking up that field. The bravery and courage of the men that fought in the Civil War is off the charts, and you realize these are 14, 15, 18, 20-year-olds walking into an unimaginable hell. And, just uncommon valor. So, anyway, enough of that.
I know what you're saying. It is something I've studied on for a long, long time. And if we had those kind of men living now, the country would be in a far better situation, I think. But we have the feminization happening in the United States now. We have very few real men anymore. And I'm not ashamed to say it. I've actually gotten a little flack on the Pipe Cottage channel for saying such things. But at the end of the day, most people who stay around on my channel are very much in tune with what I've been saying anyhow. We're still reeling from the effects of that conflict. We're still reeling from the effects of it. And it even goes down to pipe tobacco and pipe smoking and that sort of thing. Because if we didn't have the government telling us that pipe tobacco was so evil and so harmful to you, we wouldn't have near the taxes on it that we do now.
You have no idea. Colorado, right now, if you buy a tin of tobacco on sale for $12 and the manufacturer's suggested retail price is $15, you pay 62% of the $15.
It's ridiculous. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I look at bourbon the same way. There's two things that I enjoy as pleasures in my old Kentucky home. It's Kentucky bourbon and good pipe tobacco. Both of those things are taxed to the hilt. Because the government knows that people who want these items are going to pay for them. And they're going to pay those high taxes. There was no income tax in this country until like 1916, 1917. There was no income tax. And what I used to tell my history student, I say used to because I'm moving out of the academic world. I'm tired of it. The academic world is going in a direction that I don't want to follow. It's hard to find good students anymore, but that's another subject.
I hear there's some good jobs high-end jobs at Harvard.
You can have that.
You don't even have to be published. You can become president. That's pretty good.
You don't even have to be alive. You don't even have to. You can be a. My God, don't even get me on that topic. Harvard is a waste of time.
We can talk about pipe tobacco.
Well, that's exactly right. Yes. I mean, I've seen people who are writing history dissertations on the history of underwater welding, for God's sakes. I mean, this stuff just doesn't make any sense. I mean, we've got these random topics that nobody cares anything about. But back to what I was saying about taxes. The people need to realize just how much we're still dealing with the effects of the Civil War. The federal government prior to the 1860s, and this does have a lot to do with pipe smoking. Just hang on a minute, because your podcast is about pipe smoking. The 1860s gave the defeat of the Confederacy gave the federal government power to do what they wanted to do, because there was nobody else in Congress to put an anchor on it, to pull the reins back. American conservatism essentially died in 1865. Any kind of American conservatism you see after 1865, it comes in waves. It comes and it goes. It doesn't have a strong enough power. It's not constantly defined in one particular way. It's defined in different ways from one generation to the next. Conserving a particular economy or conserving a particular type of society. So the Civil War gives the federal government the power to do what they want to do. When they pass a constitutional amendment in the early 20th century that promotes income tax, that tells us we've got to pay income tax, that gives them the money to do whatever they want to do. So they got the power, now they've got the money. And from the 1920s until now, for 100 years of American history, we have an escalating federal power. And not only federal, state and local governments have realized that they can tax too. And so you've got tax after tax after tax, and it's killing the tobacco industry. It's shocking that it hasn't killed the liquor industry, although the federal government, at the same time they passed the income tax, also instituted prohibition, trying to destroy the consumption of alcohol in the United States. And so I'm very wary when it comes to government power. And so when I go to, if it's an online shop or a brick and mortar shop, when I see the prices constantly going up, I know that's not supply and demand. That's taxes. The federal government, the state and local governments are requiring taxes more. And what are they doing with the money? What's going on with the money?
Well, this portion of the podcast brought to you by Pfizer. Pfizer.
Right. Yeah, brought to you by Raytheon. I have a rhetorical question, and bear with me. If we've got $30 some odd trillion in debt, monetized debt, and if we can fund wars, multiple wars on multiple fronts, and we can give incoming aliens, $2,000 a month. You just come to the country and you get $2,000 a month. People who have worked their whole lives, they don't make $2,000 a month in Social Security. So anyway, if the government whatever the government wants to do, they just print the money to get it. Then why do they need my taxes? That's my rhetorical question. Why do they need my taxes are minuscule compared to the money that they blow, and they just print it whenever they want it.
Well, yes, that's an absolutely good point. Wade Hampton from South Carolina, he was General Lee's cavalry corps commander after Jeb Stuart died at the Battle of Yellow Tavern in 1864. And so Wade Hampton, he eventually became governor of South Carolina, and he said years after the war that the United States died in 1865. The founders never intended for there to be a government where we are taxed to this degree. We have to remember that one of the main reasons the American Revolution occurred in the first place was because of taxation without representation. What does representation mean? It means that you have enough of people in Congress to represent the vast amount of people who are in the country. At the time that the country, now hang on, I'm making a big point. Just hang on there a minute. When the country was founded, one representative in Congress would have been the representative of a much, much smaller amount of people than what we have now. I mean, now, one representative in the House of Representatives is supposed to represent the interest of 750,000 people. One person, 750,000 people. That's ludicrous. It's not about representative government anymore. It's about power and money. And so we see that in the tobacco world. I mean, the tobacco buyout, of 20 years ago, 2004, was the year of the tobacco buyout. And at that time, I was living in South Carolina. And 3 or 4 years after 2000, for about 2007, 2008, I started working with a good friend of mine who was a row crop farmer. And he quit growing tobacco 2 or 3 years before I started working with him. And at that time, the farm was in the South Carolina Low Country. So I was working on the farm so I could pay my way through my master's program at the College of Charleston. And the stories he told me, and most people don't know anything about it, said that the federal government gave him several $100,000 to stop growing tobacco, so that the government could control the contracts, so that the big businesses, the big corporate businesses, could control the contracts with individual farmers. And I don't know how all of it works down to the ground level, but what I know is that the United States federal government has played a major role in destroying farm families in this country who were reliant upon tobacco production for generation after generation. And the reason they're being taxed now is because we have these people who can't see the difference between cigarettes and pipe tobacco. It's a known fact that the cigarette is the product of modern industrial America. It's the product of modern industrial America. The modern cigarette does not exist until the decades after the Second World War. And the modern cigarette is a way for people to make a ton of money off of tobacco. Pipe tobacco and cigar leaf should not be placed in the same category, but it is through the legislation at the federal level. And so we're taxed on all of it. Cigarettes, pipe tobacco, cigars, the whole thing. And so I have strong opinions about the whole matter. What it boils down to is that the federal government needs to mind its own business. We need to go back to the days where the only time we ever hear of the federal government is when we go to the post office or when the postman comes and gives us our mail. The rest of the time, the federal government don't need to be taking our money. They do not need to be taxing consumer goods to the level that they are. Because even though I have reservations about industrial capitalism at the end of the day is far better than socialism.
I agree with you. I think I have a friend of mine who has a cigar shop, smoke shop. And years ago, he and another partner developed a machine that would allow you to load the machine with pipe tobacco and paper tubes, and the machine would fill paper tubes with pipe tobacco. And you avoided the heavy tax on a carton of cigarettes by using pipe tobacco.
Yeah.
Well, when the cigarette manufacturers found out about this, the big money talks, and they got legislation passed where they instituted the higher taxes on pipe tobacco and put that business under. So, you're basically bringing pipe tobacco on par with cigarette tobacco.
Well, the reason I don't have, I've made a video about this. It's one of the biggest videos I've got on the Pipe Cottage channel. And I made a video after we moved to Kentucky explaining my, really, I was mad. I'll just put it plainly. I was mad about.
I love that video.
About the way Kentucky taxes work when it comes to running a online business. Because the whole reason I started the Pipe Cottage channel was to tell people about and to promote a business that I started in South Carolina, which was the old Carolina Pipe Cottage. I wanted that to be a brick and mortar store at some point. But for many reasons, spiritually, family reasons, economic reasons, lots of things, we decided to move to Kentucky. I don't regret that decision 1 minute. But my plan was, when we moved to Kentucky, to continue an online pipe and tobacco business. But I applied for the proper licensing, and I applied for everything that we needed, and then I got a call from the tobacco, I don't know what the department is, the tobacco regulation people in Frankfort, Kentucky. And they said, we need some more information. I said, what information do you need? Said, well, we want to know exactly what you're going to be selling. And by the way, if you're going to be selling online, we'll need you to keep records of everything you sell, whether it's a tin of tobacco, a pipe, pipe cleaners, whatever it is, matches. Keep records of every item you sell and give us the names, addresses, phone numbers, contact information of every person you sell to, in state or out of state. You will be required to provide this itemized information 4 times a year, every quarter. And I said, do what now? You mean to tell me that I've got to give you all this information? Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. And I got angry. And so I said, I've never heard of this. Surely this has to violate some kind of law. And then the person I was talking to, who is the director, or at that time was the director of the tobacco licensing program at the state capitol, she said, well, if you don't agree with this, then you can't start an online business in Kentucky. And actually, we may need to do an audit on you because you're telling me you had a tobacco business in South Carolina. If you sold any items to people in Kentucky and didn't give Kentucky their proper taxes, we need to do an audit on your entire business. And I said, so you're threatening me because I'm asking questions about this. And so I've ended the conversation. I said, forget it. I'm not going to be talked to like this by a government official who don't know her butt from a hole in the ground. I'm just not going to do it. And so I quit. I quit trying to sell tobacco, quit trying to do anything with pipes in the retail world. But interestingly enough, I continued with the YouTube thing. And it continues to grow, and it actually has become something far more fun and valuable to me now.
Yeah, it's enormous.
I don't care to sell pipes and tobacco anymore. What I care about is promoting other people who are selling pipes and tobacco who can do it a lot better than I can.
Yeah.
And
your YouTube channel is enormous, the subscriber base that you've got.
Well, I did
almost 32,000 subscribers, 31.8.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
well,
off the charts.
I'm thankful for it, but I don't know that. I started a separate channel under my name because I think that a good portion of people who subscribe to the Pipe Cottage channel are not pipe smokers. They're simply interested in other things that I talk about, history, theology, etc. And so I'm trying to pull back from discussions of those topics and put it on a separate channel and allow the Pipe Cottage channel to go back to what it was originally intended to be, which is a discussion of pipes and tobacco, etc. And I still got a lot that I want to talk about regarding pipes and tobacco, so I'm nowhere near done, but I'm pulling back from the history and the theology stuff because there's a diverse audience of people who watch the Pipe Cottage, a highly diverse audience. I've got people in Europe, Australia, everywhere around the world who watch that channel. And some of them relate to my background, some of them can relate to Christianity, but some of them can't. And so I think that what needs to happen is just need to make it about pipes and tobacco again. So I wanted to give it up several times. I've talked to my wife several times. I said, what's the point in all this? I already have a disdain towards social media in the first place. Why am I continually doing this? And when you get handwritten letters in the mail from people who tell you that something you said on your video helped them to have a better relationship with their son. I've actually gotten letters from people that have told me that they watched one of my videos as they were preparing to commit suicide. And something that I said convinced them that Jesus is actually a reality. And so when I continue to get that kind of feedback, if just one person, if something I say could just benefit one person, that's the main thing.
See, and where this Jim and I, our podcast, we have the opposite effect. People who are perfectly healthy will watch our show and then contemplate suicide. So. We both make impact, but we do it in a different way,
Yeah.
Well,
We're trying to solve the world population problem by getting people to take the Cobain vape pen. What you've done is remarkable. And believe me, I know all about. I live in a state where tobacco is villainized, but I can go buy a pound of weed.
yeah.
I just so everybody's clear, I can't stand the smell of marijuana. It's just, I don't like it. And every day that I drive to work, I am bombarded with the people smoking weed and driving. And apparently that's okay. Oh, but you've got a pipe? Oh, what's wrong with you? Do you, are you insane? No, I enjoy a pipe. It's the reason I don't drive my truck into a bridge abutment, mostly.
Yeah.
Well,
Pot makes you needless wantless. It destroys your I don't know, any desire that you have to do anything. I think.
Yeah. Well, unless
sister-
your desire was to sit on the couch and eat Doritos, then yes, then pot is your
Right.
weapon of choice. But
Right.
no, I just
I've told you my sister lives in Boulder, and she
the
she
People's
quit
Republic of
the,
Boulder. Yeah.
Right. She quit the teaching profession, but one of the issues that she had, besides, the over pampered kids who think that they're cats, that kind of thing, was kids can get pot, and they don't want for anything. They just, no drive, no desire.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good. It's not good. Whole society.
I just finished a video with Matt Frad from Pints with Aquinas this afternoon. It was a spur of the moment thing. It was just extemporaneous. We were texting. He said, "Hey, let's do a video," and so we did. And one of the topics that came up was marijuana, because I have gone on record on the Pipe Cottage channel saying that I think that marijuana smokers and pipe smokers are in two different worlds, two different cultures, and they should not be compared. And so he and I were talking about that, and he said he's got evolving ideas of marijuana use, etc. And I have to agree with you, Tim, on this. I just really don't. I can't. And Jim, I can't stand the smell of it. I don't want to be around it. And in my experience, people who smoke marijuana are not my kind of people. To say it in a very plain way, because marijuana affects your mind, very much like alcohol does, I guess. If you drink too much, it has an effect upon your mind. Pipe smoking, for anybody who I know that smokes a pipe, you do it for the flavor, for the enjoyment of it, for the relaxation. And it's not a relaxation that is physical as much as it is psychological. I can go days on end without smoking a pipe if I want to. There's no addiction involved with this. And actually, we're in Lent now, and I thought, well, maybe I can. My first Lent as a Catholic, I thought, well, maybe I should give up the pipe. And then I thought, well, maybe we need to do something a little bit different for the first
Let's
time.
not get into this Catholic thing too fast, Let's just ease. Let's ease into it a little bit.
this. Yeah,
Right, we need to do something a little different. But I seldom smoke every day now. Because when I pick up a pipe, I like to have a time of solitude, quiet, and with 3 small kids in the house, that's sometimes difficult to achieve. And so I don't. And my wife knows that when I pick up my pipe, that is my time of solitude and reflection. And I'm usually not reading anything, and I've had to make a point to put the phone down, put the computer down. I don't like to have any screen in front of me anymore when I smoke a pipe. Now, years ago, I did. I mean, I'd be on there, and I'd just have the phone going, and man, you're just looking at everything on Instagram, looking at YouTube. I don't do that anymore. And that's sort of stupid to say as I sit here with a pipe in my hand talking to you on this computer screen. But
that we're going to post to social media. Yeah. No irony there whatsoever. We're good.
No. It's actually a delicious twist of irony that I'm doing this. But
There you go.
I think that people understand when I say that. That people understand that the pipe has a way of taking you somewhat back in time. There's this nostalgia that Americans have now because we're so removed from the old ways. And when I say old ways, that can mean several things. Just people who still have front porches on their house, still sit and watch the sun go down. People who still talk to one another in the household rather than watching television. Sometimes different people watching different televisions in different rooms in the house. And so when you sit down and smoke a pipe, it really does take you to a bygone era because it's not a popular thing anymore. But I'm glad to see, and I think that I'm right in saying this, that pipe smoking is gaining in popularity, particularly among young people, among college age and up, people in their 20s, in their 30s. I think pipe smoking is catching on again. And I think one of the ways to explain that is that young people are looking at their future. The people who are 20, 30 years old, they're looking at their future and they're saying, okay, I've got probably, if Lord willing, several decades of life here. And so how do I want that life to look? Do I want it to be spent in a cubicle where I'm working for somebody else and I'm allowing somebody else to control my schedule? Do I want it to be controlled by the government, where I allow the government to tell me what I can and cannot do? Do I want it to be controlled by religion? And this is especially the case with a lot of fundamentalist Protestants. Do I want them to be able to tell me what I can and cannot do? And so I've made this point time and time again on the Pipe Cottage channel that I think younger people are reaching a point where they're not so much concerned with what they shouldn't do. They are asking, what should I do? What ought I do? And,
right.
I have a little different thought on it. You brought up the solitude and peace of the pipe, and I am a very solitary pipe smoker. I typically don't smoke in groups. It is a time of reflection. And when you look at the folks in their 20s and 30s now, they grew up on the internet. They grew up with something going on constantly. There was a constant distraction. And the reason that they're coming to pipe smoking is they're finding the beauty and joy of solitude. That moment, that 30 minutes of your life where you can disconnect, you can let the pipe tobacco take you to someplace else. The blend comes out. It's nuanced. It's a new flavor. You're not thinking about, gosh, I wonder how many likes my last post got.
That's right.
And you start to see it, you know, especially, you know, when you look at some of the younger pipe guys out, you know, particularly Get Piped, their podcast. You know, these are guys that have dived into it because of it lets them step away from what's become their reality. You know, I can't. You know, I saw a great post the other day. You know, do you remember when people used to write in their diary and get upset if anybody saw it? Now people post their entire lives on Facebook and get mad when nobody comments on it. And I thought that that's so appropriate. And you know, when I grew up, there were things that you just, you know, you took for granted. You took for granted that 30 minutes where you could disconnect and not be bombarded by nonsense. I personally haven't turned on a TV in 5 years. I can't watch it, period.
Oh, that is so good. I wish you could convince my wife of that. One of the big issues that I have in my house right now is allowing our children any screen time at all. And my oldest is 5. My youngest is 8 months.
Yeah, and congratulations, by the way, on the newest one. That's
yeah, wow.
Thank you. Yeah, we have 3 kids, and we hope to have more. Hope to have many more. But I don't like my children being around a screen. I don't like it. And if I had to say that there was a point of contention between my wife and I, she was raised in a public school, I wasn't. And so that's a big, big difference. And so Russell Kirk, who I've mentioned on the channel before, he was a very important conservative writer. He was from Acosta, Michigan, and he was born in the 19-teens and lived until the 1990s. His wife brought a television into the house. This was probably late 50s, early 60s, and his library and study was just down the block from his house. He had a separate property away from his main house that he bought where he housed his library, and that's where he did his work. He came home one evening after writing and doing his work, and he noticed a television in his living room that his wife had put there. And so he didn't say a word. He just opened the nearest window, picked up the television set, and threw it out in the yard. And they never had another television in their house. And I had
Back then, that was doing something. Those TVs were enormous.
I had to admire that because we're losing. But at the same time, the pipe can bring people together in community. Some of the best times I've had smoking a pipe is smoking a pipe around a fire with friends, or going to a pipe show and smoking pipes with others. It really is an icebreaker if you think about it. If you have people who have come from different backgrounds and they may not have a lot in common, when you fire that bowl up together, that's really the most important icebreaker, so to speak, that I can think of. And some of the best friendships that I've developed over the past 2 or 3 years have happened during those moments when we just fire up a pipe and get to know one another, because it's very personal, it's very private, even if it's in a public environment. And so I think it's a special hobby, and I'm glad to see more and more young people taking it up.
I tell you what, I spend a decent amount of my time alone in the shop, and what I'll do is I'll work for a while, and I'll get a little tired, or maybe I'll get to the end of a particular, taking a project as far as I could take it on a pipe, and then I'll just think to myself, it's time for a break, and I'll sit down, and if I don't already have a pipe packed, I've got some tobacco drying, because I always dry tobacco when I go in the morning. And, pack a pipe, and I'll sit there and I'll smoke for a while, and just clear your mind. And I don't know what it is about pipe smoking, but that's what happens for me, is that my mind just clears my mind. And then I can begin thinking about things in a different way. So if I've got something that I'm working on, and, I've come up against it, and I'm not seeing the way to the end, I'll take a break. I'll sit down, and I'll have a smoke, and usually I can figure it out by then. And the other times that are really special for me is at the end of the day. I'll go out on the back porch, and sun's going down. We've got, I don't know, probably, we don't own it all, but there's probably 150 acres. It's all wooded and some tillage, but the horse pastures are behind us and that kind of thing. And I'll just sit there, nothing but me and the crickets, and just smoke a pipe. And I'll stay out there until I'm almost out of blood from the mosquitoes draining me, and then I'll come in. But it's just wonderful downtime for me.
I would do that in Colorado, but typically this time of the year, hypothermia, death. It's
right. Walrus attack.
I have to ask Dr. Harrelson. I saw that you had a bourbon. What bourbon are you drinking?
Well,
because Tim and I are both bourbon guys. So
this is Buffalo Trace right now. I've been
it's a rye.
switching. No, it's Buffalo Trace is a real good bourbon.
Oh, that's a bourbon. Yeah, I'm thinking of.
And, it's made from the same distillery that produces Eagle Rare and Blanton's.
Okay.
Buffalo Trace is essentially a younger aged version of Eagle Rare and Blanton's. When I was in graduate school at Mississippi State, I could go to the local liquor store and I could get Eagle Rare for like $28 a bottle. And now Eagle Rare is going to cost me at least $40 to $50 at the local store, because unfortunately more people found out about it. And so,
well, if you lived in South Carolina as long as I did, boy, there's a huge difference in what you pay for liquor in South Carolina than the rest of the world.
You lived in South Carolina, Jim?
Yes, I did.
Whereabouts?
My wife and I lived in Columbia for 2 years, and then we lived just outside of Spartanburg for 6 years.
Oh, my goodness gracious. So what did you think about South Carolina? I left South Carolina because I have strong reservations about the direction the state's taken now. It's becoming too urban for me. Not a strong agricultural community anymore.
I would go back to South Carolina immediately. And
Well, if I were in Colorado, I would too.
Here's the
Yeah.
difference. So we've lived in Colorado not quite a year now. I know absolutely none of my neighbors. They
Oh,
don't
yeah.
wave. They don't say hello.
Yeah.
When Diane and I moved into our house in Moore, two of the neighbors saw we were taking some stuff out of the truck, and they said, "Here, we'll give you a hand." I am, and Todd that lived across the street and Bill that lived down the street came and helped us move furniture for about 2 hours. And by the end of the week, I knew 20 people on the block, and by the end of 4 months, I knew everybody on the block. And that's just the difference in community between the South and other places. There's a strong sense of community in the South that you don't find really anywhere else. And I love South Carolina
Well,
more than
why
I could
don't you
possibly.
move back?
I'm working on it.
So you don't plan to stay in Colorado indefinitely?
Oh, no. This is
Good.
this is mad. I mean, so that you know, we have a homeless encampment outside of my work. They tore the electrical box off the wall and tried to pull the wire out with a pickup truck to just. And do you know who got arrested for it, even though we have it on camera? No one. Oh, sorry. Yeah, too bad. Pay the bill.
Just typical. Just typical. I mean, I've heard so many stories about Colorado, and that's typical.
Yeah, they're
And,
cutting city services to help the homeless population, and I think we're up to, just in Denver alone, 250,000 homeless people.
Well,
And they're probably there because of the drugs, right? I mean, it would have to be. You can't. Wouldn't want to live there because of the weather.
Yeah, you know, 9 below. I want to be homeless in Colorado. No, I'm there are much nicer places to be in the winter.
Jim, is there any local pipe shop near you? Is there a pipe smoking world at all in Colorado these days?
Oh, there is. There's a fantastic shop, Edwards Pipe and Tobacco, and it's in Inglewood. It's about 20 minutes from where I live. And I'm surprised at the number of artisan pipe makers that live in Colorado. Anthony from Castle Briars, Rob Dickey from R. Dickey Pipes. There's 6 of them that I know are within an hour of me. And it's a very strong pipe community. I went a couple of weekends ago to Edwards and sat around and had 4 pipes with the local pipe community, and they meet every Saturday morning, and whenever I can, I try to go join them. But there is a very strong pipe community here.
Well, I've heard that Colorado has some beautiful country. I've never been that far west. But as far, and forget about the people, but the landscape and the countryside, have you had a chance to experience that?
Wow, it is spectacular. So I lived in Arizona before I moved to the Carolinas, and thought the mountains were spectacular in Arizona. And then you come here to Colorado and the Rockies, and there's just magnificent scenery. And Colorado is really a tale of 2 states, because the first hour and a half when you cross over from Kansas or Nebraska or Oklahoma, that's the farming side of Colorado, and then you come to the People's Republic of Denver, and it's much more urbanized.
I hate to be the one asking questions, but I'm so interested in this. So y'all are living in different places, and why did y'all decide to start a podcast about pipes and tobacco? What is your ultimate goal?
We never thought of that.
Oh,
There should be a goal.
forethought and planning, huh? No. I'll tell you the truth, Alan. Tim and I would have a conversation on Sunday nights where we would just talk on the phone, and we'd be laughing so hard, and eventually we just decided, we need to share our special kind of humor and stupidity with other people. And one of the things we noticed that was missing in, pipe tobacco podcasts, there aren't a lot of pipe makers, artisan makers that have their own podcasts. And Tim is just one of the top flight pipe makers, and I dabble in pipe tobacco, and we talk about that along with whatever else pops into our head, because we're not deep thinkers. We just random girl firings.
So y'all seem to be fairly deep thinkers to me. Tim, you have a lot of books on the back on your shelves back there. What are your reading habits? What do you like to read?
I've been reading a lot of the church fathers lately. St. Maximus, I was working on a bunch of his works, and then there's a Father Stephen DeYoung that wrote a book. It's called the Religion of the Apostles, and that's I just finished that. That's a pretty good read. I don't know. It's kind of eclectic. There's I was interested in the Soviet Union. During Stalin's Soviet Union, so I read the Gulag Archipelago and a couple of other authors not coming to mind right now, but yeah, just kind of all over the board. Things that I just get a whim, and then I'll get on a particular path, and I'll follow that until it runs out, and then I'll go on to something else.
All right, good.
Yeah.
Well, sir, are you planning to be at Muletown?
I'm going to be at Muletown, yeah. Are you going to go?
I think I am. I need to go because I don't know whether y'all know Richard, the Dread Tiger is his YouTube channel. He's the manager of the Gatlin Burley Tobacco Shop in Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
Oh,
and,
okay.
He's been the manager there. He oh my goodness gracious! I'm telling you, you talking about a man. I did an interview with him. We sat down and did a video with together for the Pipe Cottage channel, and man, people just loved that because he's Eastern Orthodox. He's an Eastern Orthodox priest, and folks couldn't believe that me, being a new Catholic, was sitting down talking to an Eastern Orthodox priest 2 months after being confirmed. But it was because of the pipe. I mean, Richard is such a beautiful man. He's such a, well, not, I've seen more pretty people, but I'm talking about in his personality.
Right. I got you.
So wonderful. And so he's got a YouTube channel called The Dread Tiger. And for those people out there who don't know about the Gatlin Burley produces 40 or 50 different house blends that are phenomenal. Mm-hmm. I mean, and they're just, and you can mail order this stuff. So you can call up to the store. I think you can actually order some stuff online. But Richard is going to Muletown. Okay. And I said, Richard, I'll go if you go. And so he said, well, I reckon I'll have to go. It would be good.
So you'll recognize him. He's the guy with the cassock and the big beard.
Yeah, he's got a beard. Yeah, he does. But I'm so looking forward to it. I went to the Ohio Pipe Show last year. I went to Muletown. I went to a couple different pipe shows. They had this little pipe show down in Gainesville, Georgia. I went to that. But the one that I enjoy most of all is Muletown.
Yeah, it really is a good one.
Because it's mostly people from Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, and Kentucky who show up to it, because that's the local environment. And I have a lot in common with nearly everybody. Last year at Muletown, a fella came up to me. He said, Alan, I knew your granddaddy, and I know your daddy. I said, well, who in the world are you? And he told me that he was raised in the same South Carolina town that my daddy was born in and that I was born in. And he found he smoked the pipe, and he started following me. And so I guarantee you I never would have met this person at an Ohio pipe show. He wasn't going to go way up yonder to Yankee Land, but he was going to come to Tennessee and smoke a pipe with Alan Harrelson. And so I had such a good time last year, and I'm looking forward to it. Because it's
Will you be there Friday?
Yeah, I'm planning to be there Friday evening and most of the day Saturday. And I don't know exactly what the schedule is going to look like now, but definitely all day Saturday.
All right. I and my
Excellent.
two brothers are driving down. We'll be there on Friday, and then of course all weekend. But I'm excited to introduce them to that show because it's just, like you say, it's just such a good time. It's
It is.
the combination of the venue, everybody's friendly, cordial. It's just a really good time, and
Well-
I'm so glad I went last year. It was my first time, and then this will be my second, and I've been looking forward to it since I left there the last year. So,
Well, oh my goodness gracious! There's a lot of. I just mentioned this in a video I did on the channel, but people need to know that Columbia, Tennessee, where Briarworks is, where Muletown is, that's also the headquarters of the Sons of Confederate Veterans. The
Is it
SCV
really?
headquarters
No
is in
kidding.
Columbia, Tennessee. Not 2 miles from where the pipe show is going to be. Is it? And
No
they've got
kidding.
a beautiful, beautiful building. Beautiful.
it's like
building.
an old armory.
No.
No?
This building can't be any more than 10 years old. It's state of the art. I mean, they've got a
Okay.
Confederate museum in there, and that's where Nathan Bedford Forrest is reinterred because everybody knows that. Well, not everybody, but the folks in Memphis, Tennessee, didn't want Nathan Bedford Forrest to be there anymore, and so they dug him up. And the Sons of Confederate Veterans said, "Well, if y'all gonna dig him up, we want him," and so they reburied him in Columbia, Tennessee, and they've got the monument. There used to be this beautiful monument of Nathan Bedford Forrest on top of his grave downtown Memphis. They've got the monument too in Columbia. They've got it all, and you can see the coffin. They've got the original coffin, the casket, on display in the Confederate Museum that General Forrest was originally buried in. It was iron. And so his remains, I went up to they got this wonderful welcome center and this desk when you walk into this beautiful building they've got. And there's a couple of people in there, and they've got a nice gift shop and so forth. And I went up to them, and the people at the counter said, "So tell me, was there anything left of General Forrest when they dug him up?" Because I had this sort of macabre thing in my mind. I wanted to really know. And they said, yes, there was a large portion of his Confederate uniform left, a large portion of the skeleton still left. But he was buried in an iron casket. His wife was buried next to him, but she was put in a wood casket, so there wasn't as much left of her. But you can't tell me that you don't have goosebumps come up on your shoulders when you go look at that casket sitting in that museum in Columbia, Tennessee, that was in the ground housing General Nathan Bedford Forrest. And it's just marvelous. And they've got other wonderful things in there you can see. But Columbia, Tennessee is worth people's attention. If you are into pipe smoking and you're at all interested in Southern history or Civil War history, it's worth your time to go to Columbia, Tennessee and go to this pipe show.
Okay. Well, we may look that up. There's a Confederate armory in Cleveland, Ohio. It's called the Cleveland Grays Armory, and there was a group of Confederate sympathizers
Copperheads.
who had they had an armory in Cleveland. Yeah.
Yep. Copperheads. A lot of folks don't know about that history. There were a large amount of people in the North who were opposed to the Lincoln administration, and they were called Copperheads for the most part. And Clement Vallandigham was the name of a man from Ohio who was going to run for president against Lincoln in 1864. And the Northern government decided they didn't want him around anymore, so they exiled him to the Confederacy. Said, if you're going to be running against the president on the Democratic ticket, then we're going to exile you to the Confederacy, which he happily did, I'm sure. But if you go to northern Kentucky, you go to Florence, Kentucky, and actually that's where Strauss Tobacconist is. They've got a shop there. Strauss Tobacconist that makes Sleepy Hollow, the wonderful fall blend that everybody knows about. Strauss Tobacconist in Florence, Kentucky. If you're going into Cincinnati, that's your first exposure to Ohio going north. But coming south, your first exposure to Kentucky, and I think that's maybe I-75. There's this water tower over on the right-hand side of the interstate that says, "Hey, y'all."
Oh, yeah?
I'm glad that y'all has made it as far north as Florence, Kentucky. Because our part of Kentucky is decidedly in the south. We're just 5 miles north of the Tennessee line, for goodness sakes. But when you get over toward Louisville, there's more of a Midwestern influence. But it's just wonderful being here. I've met so many wonderful people. And Jim, if I were you, I'd be getting back to South Carolina as soon as I could. And because if I had to choose South Carolina over Colorado, I think, unless I was a rich rancher, I was going to be going back to South Carolina.
Sometimes we make bad decisions, Alan.
Well, you don't know what you don't know, and then once you get there and you realize what you're dealing with.
No,
and the goose is already cooked by then,
Yeah.
If you went back to South Carolina, Jim, where would you go? What part?
It depends on the circumstances. So if I took a remote position, I would probably be. So my daughter, son-in-law, and the grandkids live in St. Augustine, Florida. So I would be low country, not Charleston, but someplace in the low country where easy access to 95. I'm not really a coastal guy. I really, Beaufort or any of the, don't really want to live on the ocean, but I just want to be where, I can have a 2.5-hour drive to get down to see the kids and grandkids. So
I'm glad you pronounced Beaufort correctly. I remember years ago, I was at a history conference in Charleston. This fella told me that he was going to go visit Beaufort, South Carolina. Beaufort. South Carolina. I said, son, please don't go down there and tell folks you are glad to be visiting Beaufort, South Carolina. So, I gave him a little bit of a language lesson.
Yeah. And I love South Carolina. It was one of the first places that Diane and I moved. We lived in Charlotte, North Carolina for a year or two, and that was the nicest thing I can say. It's a southern city that forgot that it's in the South.
Well, the only good thing about Charlotte, North Carolina that I've experienced in the past several years is McCraney's Pipe Shop.
Yep.
And now, I don't know a lot about this. This is just a spur-of-the-moment question that y'all may know something about. I see somebody gave me a McCraney's Red Virginia blend at the Ohio Pipe Show. And I think that was blended by McClellan. I think that's McClellan, Virginia. Did McClellan at some point have a relationship with McCraney's in Charlotte?
No, McCraney's was kind of like the Frog Morton series. So they had it, and it was one of the blends that they came out with later before they exited the business, and it didn't have the traditional McClellan logo or label on it. And nobody's really ever given me a satisfactory explanation of why they did it, but McCraney's was a McClellan product. That was something they made. Yeah, I don't think it had any correlation to the McCraney store.
Oh, it didn't have anything to do with the shop?
Nope.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Well, that's good to know. Well, it's good. I mean, it's outstanding, the blend, the 10 that I got of it.
Yeah,
but,
so what are you smoking tonight, Alan?
Oh, my goodness, I am smoking, the pipe is Costello, and the blend is this Granger. Look at this beautiful painted tin. This is from like the late 1970s. I just got this in the mail from Pipe Appeal. He's got a YouTube channel, and he's Catholic too. and so he sent me that in the mail, and I don't know where he gets all these vintage blends from. I mean, his channel is entirely about, you don't see his face on his channel. It's him videoing himself opening up vintage tins from the 1940s through the 1970s. And I don't know where in the world he's getting all this from. And so he and I have become friends, and so I got this 14-ounce tin of Granger in the mail, and he wrote me a handwritten letter with this tin, and he said, this tastes a lot different from the way Granger tastes now, and he's exactly right. It has far more to do, it's more than just the age. I think there's far more going on here than just the age. The burley, and this is my favorite codger blend of all time, by far. But half and half, Sir Walter Raleigh, Prince Albert, Carter Hall, none of them really work as well for me as Granger. I love Granger because it's got a wonderful deep flavor to it. And so I've been smoking, this is the only tobacco I've been smoking for the past week. It's because it is just so good. I don't even know that I need to put it in a jar because it's not going to last long.
Was that 100 grand, Tim?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, it's more than 100.
No, it's 14 ounces.
Yeah, it looks like it's pretty big.
It's nearly
It's like a coffee can.
14
Yeah.
ounces. And look at this is back when they painted the tins. Look at this. This is not a sticker. This is painted on the tin.
Yeah,
look at that.
That's neat.
And
That
people don't do that anymore.
No.
And
Yeah.
so this is just look. Oh, isn't that gorgeous?
Yeah, that's
Man,
nice.
that looks delicious.
It is. It's primarily burley, but it does have an aromatic topping on it. I don't know what they put on Granger, but there's some kind of topping on it. And it says, let me just read this to you. This is from the tin, and again, this is the Pinkerton Tobacco Company, Owensboro, Kentucky. The Pinkerton Tobacco Company. It says, Granger pipe tobacco owes its extra fragrance and mildness to good old burley tobacco and Wellman's process, an old-time tobacco secret. The rough cut burns more slowly and completely so you can get what every pipe smoker wants, a cooler smoke and a drier pipe.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
You know, there is something to be said about the because I like Carter Hall. That's the one that I think I've got a couple of pounds of it, and I just, you know, when you don't want to think about it, it's perfect. You know, and you know, you buy, I think 14-ounce tins for $29.99 at the grocery store. Perfect.
Yeah, right. Well,
You know.
that will soon become a thing of the past, I'm sure. I'm looking for the day when you can't find tobacco. I mean, I don't think John David Cole would mind me saying this. A couple of years ago, I was visiting his shop, and he and I were talking, and he said he was looking at his tobacco bar. And of course, at the Country Squire, they've got all their tobacco in their jars up there on their tobacco bar, their house blends. He said, during my lifetime, it's going to be illegal to have those blends on that shelf. It's going to be illegal to sell pipe tobacco in a store like this. And interestingly, he told me that the original people who started that shop in the 1970s, they came up with the name Country Squire because they didn't want to include the words pipe or tobacco in the business name. Because they knew in the 1970s that the government was going to eventually create a situation where it was going to be difficult to make money off of tobacco. So they wanted the Country Squire to be a name of a business so they could sell other products, other consumer products, if that point came along. So thankfully, 50 years later, the Country Squire is still a pipe and tobacco shop. But who knows what the future holds. I think that I don't have to worry about it during my lifetime. But who knows? The government has its hands in every little old part of our life now, so I don't know what tomorrow brings.
I look forward to being an outlaw.
Yes, sir.
That's why
Yes.
you pigeonhole all your tobacco and just keep stacking it up.
I've got enough of tobacco in this house to last a long, long time. It is almost shameful. It's almost shameful. But
Let the zombie apocalypse come. I'm good.
I did that. Well, it's just like anybody else. You do that because pipe tobacco is never going to be as cheap as it is now. And it's not as cheap now as it was 2 years ago.
No.
Yeah.
Nope.
And so if you can afford...
And it just gets better. It gets better over time.
Right. That's exactly right.
Yep.
Well, gentlemen, I don't have a whole lot more time. Is there any other questions that you want to ask before we sign off?
No.
Oh, man.
Alan, it was a pleasure to get to talk to you. We'd love to spend 3 hours chatting with you, but we certainly appreciate the time you've given to us, and what a wonderful conversation. Enjoy the rest of your evening. I know it's late. I know you've got little ones, and thank you so much for joining us.
Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure and an honor. And I will bid you both adieu, and thank you so much for this conversation we've had this evening.
Thank you, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yes, sir, Tim. And I plan
Looking
on
forward to
buying
it.
another pipe from you.
All right, I'll have a few there, I think.
Good
All right.
deal. You gentlemen
Alrighty.
take care.
Have a good night.
Good night, Alan. What a great
There you
guest.
go.
Don't you love that
Yeah,
guy?
that was great. Uh-huh. Yeah.
I absolutely
I was
love
looking
that.
forward to this conversation all day.
Oh, I was too. I've watched
Yep.
so many of his videos, and he's just, he's got 31,000 viewers, and his message resonates. So,
Yeah. Well, and I could only talk to him for so long before he'd figure out this guy doesn't know anything.
well,
You know what I mean?
Come on, Tim. I mean, if I shake my head like this, it sounds like a marimba. There's just one little marble rolling around.
It's like I was trying to think of the guy that I think he wrote the Dilbert comic. He said something about he shakes his head. It sounds like a BB in a tuna fish can.
Exactly. But, fantastic getting to talk to Alan. We didn't talk about pipes or tobacco, so maybe we could do that. But, man, 2 great episodes in a row, because I got to tell you, Kevin and Horsebone were hilarious, and what a hoot that was.
I know. I was trying to think the other day. Now, what was Todd calling himself? Horse meat?
Yeah. Horsebone. Yeah.
Horsebone. And he sent me the. I know he sent me the. He sent it to you too.
Oh, yeah.
Instagram post with his, his eyes are crossed, Horsebone checking in.
Yep. Classic. And it was great. Kevin, fantastic guest. And again, for those of you that watched the end of the show, we apologize. That was not supposed to be aired after we signed off. But, Ben, our producer, kind of took the afternoon off, and the audio quality was a little bit weak, but it was hilarious. So
I think he purposely torpedoed us on that.
That's all right. It's
kid.
not like the YouTube censors are listening anyway. Who gives a shit?
Nah.
Hell
right.
with them.
True.
All right. So
True. Yeah.
shall we march on with the rest of the show?
Let's do it.
What's new? What do you got new, Tim? You've been making a ton of new pipes.
Man. I've been making a ton of new pipes. Here's one that's going to the show. This is a little another.
Ooh.
I've been digging this. I got this stem material from Aaron at
Carolina
Cumberland. Yeah, it's like a real dark, rich red with some blood red swirls in it, and then so I use a burgundy dye on it, and then some black around for the mortise cap.
Yeah.
And then did some rustication.
I really like that.
A little bit
partial rustication, partial smooth. I just think that is a killer look.
Yeah, you get a little bit of the grain on the shank there, and some bird's eye on the top.
Very nice.
A couple of Dublins. This little Dublin. I found some stem material at the Hartville True Value. Blocks of acrylic, made for like pen blanks,
Yeah.
And made
That's
that
really
one,
sharp.
and then this one, and I tried a new. Mike Nogue asked me to do a brushed surface on a pipe for him, And so I thought I'd give it a try, and I did it on this one. I kind of like how that came out. I'm gonna do that some more, and I had some more of that stem. I got some agate, and put some agate on there. Hey, you lousy agate, and then and a little tiny all-briar Dublin.
Mm-hmm. Very nice.
And then a reverse calabash.
Ooh.
Some more agate there.
Very nice. Now, how's the agate to work?
So these, it's not bad. Okay. I'm cheating actually. They're rings, and I just put them on. I'm not cutting it. And then I got it's hard to tell on this camera, but the grain on this is really cool.
Oh, and so I love it's partially rusticate. The plateau at the front. Mm-hmm. Ooh, very nice. Very nice blowfish.
Finish this one up and do.
All right.
Keeping the trains moving, man.
All right. Excellent.
Yeah.
Great pipes again, and I'm excited to see what you take to Muletown. Because it's always fantastic. I mean, I've got 18-year pipes now. It's ridiculous. Oh yeah, here. Better send that one to Colorado. 2 weeks ago, we talked about pipe smoking doesn't have to be expensive. And although Tim is an artisan pipe maker, I just want to show you. So I bought a Dr. Grabo Grand Duke, which is one of my, if you're going to get one of the current line, I really like the Grand Duke. It's just a very simple billiard, nice thick walls on the bowl, and delivered to Parker, Colorado from Tobacco Pipes. It was $44. And it's a great pipe. Okay. Absolutely, It doesn't have to be expensive. It's only as expensive as you want to make it. Now we're going to talk about the things that I made that make it expensive for me. So Mitchell, my favorite crack dealer, has a routine where every Saturday night he says, hey, I got some new stuff coming out. And as you all know, I do have a fondness for Dr. Grabo. And this is from the Dr. Grabo Viscount series, which I believe is a discontinued series. And it is just a really interesting kind of Dublin shape. And I'll kind of get it here to the camera.
Yeah, it's neat.
Yeah. And then here's another Viscount, and this is just kind of, it's just more of a cutty kind of rounded top.
Yeah,
it's a little bit smaller bowl. And again, Mitchell had these very reasonably priced. And then as long as we're talking about Carolina Cumberland, so those of you that don't know, he's scheduled for surgery. He's got a bone spur on one of his vertebrae. He's going to be out of commission. And he posted, I'm trying to sell some pipes to get out here. So, of course, I got another radiator pipe from him.
Oh, yeah. That's nice.
Absolutely.
I didn't know that about him. He's got to have surgery. Had no idea.
He can't move his right arm. He's got a bone spur on C6. According to his post, and we're hoping for a really speedy recovery for him because that's just terrible. But the doctor said he'll be good to go in 2 weeks, and I like Aaron's work. I'm not going to kid you. I love it. So
good guy.
Yeah,
I like that pipe.
Those radiator pipes are off the charts.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I wanted to show you something today. So this is Jack Ryan, who's coming up as a guest in a couple of weeks. This is a Jack Ryan. Today, when I walked the dog this afternoon, the wind was howling.
It's got the top on it. Yeah.
So these are, I got this from Missouri Meerschaum. It is a wind cap because the wind was blowing about 45 miles an hour this afternoon. I mean, it was a howling gale.
Beautiful.
And I'm not walking the dog without a pipe. So I pulled out my wind cap and put the wind cap on and took my Jack Ryan pipe out for a walk. And it really worked very, very well. And they're not particularly expensive. I think they're $3.95 for a wind cap. And if you don't have one and you live someplace windy like Colorado, I recommend having a wind cap. So, excellent. And man, was it a week of creativity, by the way. So, Tom and Nathan from Pipe, Tobacco, and Whiskey podcast and the YouTube channel called me up last weekend and said, hey, we heard about you. We'd like for you to make us a blend. Cool. So I got him on the phone, and we talked for a while. And Tom had his idea, and the son Nathan had his idea. So we came up with Tom's Blend for pipe, tobacco, and whiskey. And this is Nathan's Blend. And their Tom's Blend is more of a vapor, a little stronger. And Nathan wanted something that was a little more citrusy. So it's got some lemon leaf, some orange leaf in it. And they're both really interesting. And they're the new plug cut. And these are my samples, so I can take them out and show them to you. Maybe, theoretically. So this is Nathan's. You can see it's a very nice golden color. It's got a little Cavendish in it to give it that sweetness he was looking for. And it has a vanilla kind of citrusy note to it. So I think that will hit the mark, and we'll find out what they have to say. And then Tom's Blend is a vapor, and it's kind of home for me. So I really like that one, and I'll pull it out. This is my sample. And I actually cut some slices. I got my biltong out, and this is a slice that I cut off of it. And maybe at some point, to make Noah happy, I'll make some flakes. But it's hard. It's a lot of work. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
Yeah.
And then beans. Don't mind me. I'm just dipping off camera for a second there. Beans 316. I made him 2 custom blends. And he did a video about the 2 blends that I made for him. So the first one, in a fit of creativity, was Beans number 1, which was a Burley Virginia blend with Pikesville rye topping. And then Beans 2 is a vapor, and he wanted it very, very Perique forward. So I made him both of that, and he put a video out yesterday. And my phone has rung remarkably well from that. A lot of people are interested in those. So,
Is he from West Virginia?
he is. Yep, he is.
Okay.
Beans is from West
because
Virginia.
Mike Nogue mentioned that I can't remember if he said that he may know him, or he maybe he knows the town he's from.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. And by the way, I sent Mike his Juice Navy blend, which was
yes, he showed me that. Yeah,
yeah, and he said, and I quote, "It was sublime." Mike, I couldn't be
nice.
happier that you enjoyed it. So really well.
Yeah,
And
good.
then last week I talked about Cavalier, and I really, really liked it. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to try it in a navy form. So I pressed some up, put a rum topping on it, and it's really good too. So, and then lastly, in my last fit of creativity, shall we take one out of the press? You want to take one out of
Sure.
the press? All right.
Let her rip.
All right. Here we go.
Speaking of presses, you had good luck with presses this week, right?
Oh, let's not talk about that.
Yeah. All right.
It was so bad, I lost 8 pucks. This no humidity here in Colorado is absolutely killing me. And I just so reticent to add moisture to it. I don't want to steam it because I don't want stuff to mold. You know?
Yeah.
I worry about that.
Now, there's just no moisture in it at all. If you took that crumbled puck and you put it in your 3,500 pound, press and mashed it down, do you think it would form up into a cake?
This will take dry sand and make a puck out of it. No problem.
Okay. So you haven't lost those. You just have to do them in the
in
the crusher.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so my friend John, who had requested a custom blend, he wanted it to be called Galactic Barrel number 42, kind of an homage to Hitchhiker's Galaxy. So if any of you have read the book Hitchhiker's Galaxy, I made him a blend based on his specs. So it's Latakia and a little Dark Fire and a little Virginia and a little bit of everything. And I'm going to tap it out of here right quick. No. Oh, well, let's try to get it to go the right way. There we go. Ouch. And John, here you go. This is your blend Galactic Barrel. And what he wanted was to have a barrel stave put into the jar with it after it was pressed. He didn't want it pressed with bourbon. He just wanted it to have that bourbon scent to it afterwards. So I'm going to cut this in half and put it in a jar that I've got ready with a bourbon.
A little chunk of barrel stave. Okay, cool.
Yeah, cool.
That should be nice. Very nice.
Yeah. And it's, and by the way, anybody cares to know what type of slicer I'm using? This is a biltong. The dilemma with it is that you can see the base of it is curved. Not exactly ideal for the flat puck.
It's for slicing jerky, right? I mean, cured biltong.
Cured meat.
Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and it's got a very nice stainless steel tray, and it is absolutely fantastic. But it just doesn't. It's just not ideal for cutting tobacco. So, let's scales. But that's what I've been working on, Tim. Just me having fun, being me.
I gotta be me.
And that's, we didn't really get to talk to Alan about pipe tobacco or anything, what I would consider to be particularly interesting. Just Alan being Alan is interesting enough, but,
yeah.
The highlight for me is always, let's make something, it's kind of like with you and, pipes that, commission pipes, I'll bring your idea to life. And, to have pipes, tobacco, and whiskey, Beans 316, Jonathan, I've got another one. Chris contacted me this morning that he wants his own blend. It's going to be Carolina Woods. It's a Virginia heavy blend. And kind of excited to build that for him. So we'll see where all this goes.
Yeah, I was, Dave, what's Dave's last name? Dave's not here. Dave Rogers is looking for a blend. He should be reaching out to you shortly.
Okay. Excellent. Perfect. All right.
Remember that Dave's not here? That was great. Cheech and Chong.
Mm-hmm.
He's not here, man. No, it's me, Dave.
All right. So, also, by the way, I meant to mention this. With the two Graybo pipes, how adorable is it when Mitchell's 4-year-old daughter writes you a thank you card? Isn't that cool? I just love that.
Yeah.
That was awesome. So,
yeah.
We have a ton of comments from the last two shows. We got a few minutes. We want to keep going. We're creeping up on that 2 hour. All right.
Yeah.
So this is Fred. This was for episode 28. What a hoot. Blake's Pipes. You guys were great last night. Remember, up to influenza might have been something I ate. Okay, so he was watching the show. It caused some type of intestinal malfeasance, and he checked out. If you haven't seen his YouTube channel, he just posted a great video of him walking around the beach having a pipe. I believe he's in California. So, SCBAFRK, so I believe that's South Carolina Bacca Freak. I would always quote Mark Twain when my kids were teenagers. When I was a boy of 14, my father was so ignorant I could hardly stand to have the old man around. But when I got to be 21, I was astonished at how much the old man had learned in 7 years. Amen.
He's got a point. Yeah.
Yes, he does. Azalea Piper, where might one find Heinrich's Dark Star, that Tim mentioned? Haven't seen that one. Glad to hear Beans is reviewing some of your blends, Jim. Curious to hear his thoughts. I picked up Heinrich's Dark Star at Edwards Pipe Tobacco Shop. Your local brick and mortar is probably going to be your best bet. Smoking pipes, tobacco pipes, pipes and cigars. I haven't seen it in stock there. Try to find a local B&M. They may have it. Yusuf Syed, who also has a very nice YouTube channel. Good morning. Awesome show, gentlemen. This took me 3 hours to watch. Just when I started, then my wife will want something. You guys have a fabulous day and enjoy the weekend. Greetings from South Africa. And then Blake Pipes had a follow-up. So I only have one thing to say. I disagree with Big Meat. How dare you, Blake, disagree with me?
Nobody
Really?
disagrees with the Big Meat.
Nobody.
Come on.
I did my video, Jolly My Ass, where I had filmed a bunch of Savinelli stuff for the video. That pipe sucked. St. Nicholas Blue Stem Pipe. I so look forward to this pipe, and it has been a disappointment since. It feels like a dollar store pipe. Looks like high-gloss plastic rattle can spray. Gurgles as much as my ex-wife going down. Oh, sorry. I was getting angry. Yeah. It gurgles. But I do like the stem look.
That was good.
Yeah, that was good, Blake. We like that one. That was pretty damn funny. The draw on the pipe with a filter is horrible. Well, take the filter out. Even with the insert, it's like a wide mouth straw from 7-Eleven. I have attempted 30 bowls in it, and I have now retired it. It is now a garage queen, like a Harley Davidson. Oh, he's coming out firing now. He's
Man.
hitting,
He knows Alan. You know he knows Alan.
Just let it sit there and look pretty. Sorry, Big Meat. But I do agree on the pipe condoms, or softy bits, as you so named. Can never be more safe with one, as you really don't know where my ex has been, nor what my pipes do when I'm not looking. Oh, by the way, I did write Justin a sternly written note from Sabas, the Softy Bits Are Awesome Society, of which I am the president emeritus. All right, so now we have a show question from at Noah's House, as always. What popular blend just doesn't work for you? All Start Haunted Bookshop. Tim, is there a blend?
Yeah, you know what? I couldn't agree more. I couldn't wait to get Haunted Bookshop. Every video that I saw, everybody was raving about Haunted Bookshop. I got some Haunted Bookshop. Tasted like skunk ass. It's terrible. You know, skunk ass on fire. That's what it tasted like.
So, in my tobacco journey, I saw the reviews of this particular blend and thought, man, this many people cannot be wrong. I like everything that's in it. I'm going to get 16 ounces of it. So I bought 2 8-ounce tins, and I got it home, and I smoked a bowl of it, and I thought, I would have rather sucked a road flare than smoked it.
It's that bad.
I would have rather have set my tongue on fire and tried to lick a radio on a moving vehicle. I was so mad at this blend. I thought, it can't be this bad. It's got to be the pipe. I smoked it and something ghosted. Something's wrong. I had another bowl. No, it was the same thing. It was so effing terrible. I took both of the pipes out to the garage. I cleaned out reamed out the insides, salt and alcohol bath, and sold them to my neighbor. And that blend was Haunted Bookshop. And people asked me to describe what it's like to smoke Haunted Bookshop. So I'll tell you, again, for those of you that missed it the first time. Take 2 Marlboro Reds and a Camel, put them in a Ziploc bag, and throw them under the seat of your car for 3 years. Take out whatever's left at the end of 3 years, pack it in your pipe, and smoke it. And that's what it is. Filter and all. It's the worst blend I've ever smoked. And I'm sorry, those of you that like Haunted Bookshop, Tim and I are not in that camp.
Not for me.
No. Okay. Comments on last week's episode with Kevin and our good friend Horsebone, which I think is the best nickname ever. Flat Cap Piper, great job, guys. Very entertaining. Thank you, sir. We appreciate that. Bluebird Farm, this is Fred. Awesome show, boys. Keep up the great work. The bonus footage, yeah, well, the bonus footage was off-color and hilarious, as always. So if you missed the last 10 minutes of the show, YouTube censors, don't go listen to that. Terry Brewster, our good friend and frequent show participant. Kevin and Todd were great guests. Excellent show. The end of the show was like watching the bloopers at the end of Cannonball Run movies. Great show, guys. Yep. Yusuf Syed, good afternoon. Awesome and well done. Thanks, guys. Have a great weekend. Greetings from South Africa. Okay. Garrett, who asked all the questions in the last episode, said, well, I guess I will have to come back with more direct questions. LOL. Go get them, killer. We'll answer anything. You know how we are. We have no problem with that. Blake's Pipes. I'm guessing that this sound issue was unable to be corrected in post-production. No, it sure wasn't. How am I supposed to sleep with this? I'm editing another video while I listen. Might need to wait till sleepy time as the sound is tolerable. I love you guys. Thank you, Blakes. Jim PM 4705. Tim, being an original Hoosier and also a Purdue Boilermaker who now lives in Ohio, at that I can tell you all that obnoxious Buckeye hoopla is comically mind-numbing at best.
I'll take that.
First off,
That's right.
Jim PM 4705. I'm so terribly sorry that you're a Boilermaker and now live in Ohio. My condolences.
Yeah.
Okay. Steel Valley Piper. The difference in those plugs is striking. Very interested in this, Jim. Loving all the episodes, guys. Thank you. And Blake Pipes, one more time, because he's frequently on the show. Big Meat and Mr. Salad. Great job, boys. He took a check and I mailed it. Don't have much, but sound like this guy has less than me right now. I am not a person to give to any charity, as the majority of the money is raised by charity companies do not find its way to the ones in need. This one is as good as it could get to help another person. The money goes to the person that needs to rebuild. Thank you. By the way, the Janos raffle that we promoted, that both of us participated in, Tim gave away a pipe, I gave away some tobacco. We both bought raffle tickets for it. Over $13,000 raised. So well done.
Yeah, it's great.
Mad Pipes, Redeemed Pipes, and MBSDpipes.com. Well done. You guys were superstars in this. Just an excellent job. We hope to get Giannis back up and running very soon. Well done, fellas.
Yep. And everybody that contributed to that bought tickets, you did a good thing. The guy needed help, and as a community, we helped him out. Wonderful.
Yes, we did. And helped him out a lot. Yeah. So, fantastic. Yeah. Tim, I don't have much of anything else. How about you?
I do not either. I just keep on chugging away here. I can't wait for the show to come up here in the next couple of weeks. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a gas. And we may have a very special podcast directly from the Muletown show venue. Saturday afternoon. So keep your eyes peeled, and might have a special guest on there.
Well, let's hope it's late in the afternoon, because one of us will be coming home on a plane Saturday.
Yeah. Well, it'll probably be late, and hopefully at least I'll be a little bit sober by then. A little bit.
That's okay. I will serve as the moderator, and you just bring people on as you see fit. We're good. I think we're good.
Right. So there you go.
Are you just going to tease me and not tell me who the potential guest is, or we're just doing a show from...
No, it's going to be Reed Robertson.
Ooh. Excellent. And then we come back Sunday night with Mike from Pipe and Tamper. Woo.
That's right.
And I'm really looking forward. And y'all need to comment below if you haven't tried the blends that Mike has made through me. He's got 3 of them now: Meteora, Satanic Panic, and Dragon Tears. The guy. So let me tell you about Mike. He called me up. These are the ingredients. Here's the math. Put these together for me. And all 3 of them are winners. I'm desperately trying to talk Mike. Let's do Murphy's blends. Let's have you make 2 more blends, 5 blends in the Murphy line. I'll have you make up logos for him, because he's killing it. I mean, he's really, and he's very self-deprecating about it, but he really has a nose and understands it. I'm very impressed.
Nice. All right. Yeah, you told me about those and that they turned out pretty good. But I didn't realize that he did all the math and everything. He said, "Here, just put this together for me."
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
You know, most of the time when I do a custom blend, we talk about what people like, what they don't like. Mike calls me up and says, "Oh, send me a list of ingredients." Okay, this is what I want. Oh, okay. Good to go. Good to go.
So he has how many blends that you've done now?
Three. Meteora,
Yeah.
Satanic Panic,
Right.
and Dragon
Right,
Tears.
I've had both of those.
Well,
I haven't had Dragon Tears yet.
It's brand new. Every sample I've made of it, I've sold. I mean, I whipped up, I whipped up a couple batches of it, and they got snapped up as soon as Mike posted about them. So,
Okay.
Is what it is. Kind of
right.
fantastic. So, all right. Well, I'm
Are
whipped.
he and Jay going to get back to doing their podcast?
They're going to be kind of more limited. Maybe every 2 weeks, maybe once a month. They
Okay.
They actually talked about it on their last podcast. They really don't. They don't think they're ever going to do a weekly show, simply because they think that it becomes formulaic and stale, and they don't have anything new to say. And you and I combat that by not having anything to say, but still doing a weekly show. Because
Yeah, the bar with us is low. All we have to do is show up, and we've,
yeah, it's two old guys with beards fumbling
A
around
winner.
with technology.
Yeah. Using foul language when on the hot mic, you know.
Yeah, whatever. We're good. We're good. So, anyway. So, next week, we'll post it probably tomorrow or Tuesday. Best autocorrect, best Valentine that you've gotten, or best Valentine that got you to get to sleep on the couch. So,
Right.
there you go.
That should do it. Yeah, we'll get some nice prizes. Three of them.
Oh,
Three
and
potential
by the
winners.
way, Mitchell is also sending me a new vintage BBB pipe to give away. So we'll do this one, and then we'll have one coming up sometime after meal time.
Wow. Okay.
We'll have to think of another contest.
Sarah and Mitchell, they're good peoples.
Please patronize our sponsor, mbsdpipes.com.
Yeah.
Absolutely love them to death.
All right. Well, I guess you've seen enough of me for tonight.
I think we're done, Tim.
All right.
Good night, everyone.
Well, good night, Jim.
everyone. Good night, Tim.